Welcome to this explainer. We're dropping right into the absolute thick of the chaos of July 2026. Picture this. The streets of New Delhi, specifically around Jantar Mantar and Connaught Place, are completely packed with tens of thousands of young people. They're marching straight towards Parliament. The air is thick with tear gas, there are these intense lathi charges by the police, and this massive, totally unexpected youth movement is clashing head-on with the Indian government. It's a scene of just absolute turmoil. So today, we're going to unpack exactly how we got here, and honestly, more importantly, the hidden political crisis it's triggered behind closed doors. So what happens when a viral internet joke completely corners the world's largest political party? It's wild to even think about, right? But to really grasp the immense stakes of this movement, you have to look at its incredibly strange origins. I mean, how does an AI-generated meme snowball into a full-blown physical confrontation with the state, literally shaking the foundations of the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, or BJP?
Section 1. The Cockroach Janta Party, a viral political force. Okay, let's look at the Cockroach Janta Party, or the CJP. This is a youth-led satirical movement, and it was started back in May 2026 by a 30-year-old PR grad named Abhijit Dipke. And get this, the spark for all this? It was actually a remark from the Supreme Court Chief Justice during a totally unrelated hearing, where he allegedly compared some unemployed youths to cockroaches. But instead of just getting mad, Gen Zs flipped the insult into a massive symbol of defiance. They took that online satirical anger and combined it with very real, very deep frustration over the 2026 NEET UG medical exam paper leaks, not to mention those massive technical glitches in the CBSE's grading systems. So their core demand became laser-focused, immediate exam reform and the outright resignation of Union Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan. Section 2. Jantar Mantar Clash, Online to the Streets.
Things escalated incredibly fast here. Just look at this timeline. Back in May 2026, the CJP was literally just a meme online. By June 6, they're holding their first real-world protest at Jantar Mantar. The stakes get exponentially higher on June 28th when the renowned activist Sonam Wangchuk actually joins them, beginning an indefinite hunger strike in solidarity. And this all builds up to a massive boiling point on July 20th with the Sansad Chalo, which translates to March to Parliament, resulting in a huge clash with the police.
Now, you really can't overstate how severe that July 20th crackdown actually was. Official reports show that 118 police personnel were injured, while hospital sources are citing over 100 injured protesters. Delhi police were deploying tear gas and lathi charges just to disperse the students. And amidst all this chaos, Sonam Wangchuk, who had been refusing food and water for over 20 days at that point, was forcibly removed by authorities and hospitalized. It was a dramatic escalation, and it sent shockwaves right through the country.
Section 3. The BJP's internal divide, local versus central stance.
But just below the surface of all these highly visible street clashes, there's actually a hidden crisis brewing within the ruling party. Listen to this perspective from an anonymous BJP leader in Manjapur Press. They asked, "The youth were all over Connaught Place, but they were not committing crimes. Why did the police beat them up?" This highlights a really significant internal worry. Many folks within the BJP absolutely recognize that the youth anger regarding the exam leaks is entirely genuine. So seeing students hit with batons right in the heart of Delhi made a lot of local leaders incredibly uncomfortable. And man, that frustration goes even deeper. Take a look at this from a 34-year-old BJP worker over in Haryana. They flat out stated, "Our own workers are siding with the protesters. The sympathy of common people is now with them." This really exposes a genuine panic on the ground. Local workers felt that the central leadership completely underestimated a satirical movement, basically ignoring the hunger strikes until they just spiraled totally out of control. Then we've got Nandini Sharma, a BJP municipal councillor from Dehradun, totally echoing this sympathetic vibe. She points out that using tear gas against young students sends a terrible message in a democracy, noting simply, these are our children after all. She, like so many others at the local level, was practically pleading for dialogue rather than force. It just goes to show that down at the neighborhood level, politicians are feeling the immense heat from everyday families watching this whole thing unfold. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is this massive, stark contrast.
On one side, you have the BJP central leadership's initial stance, which was pretty dismissive, delayed, heavily relying on police action, and just blaming a vague paper mafia without really addressing the systemic rot the students were pointing to. But on the flip side, the reality for local BJP workers is completely different. They are highly sympathetic to the students, they're demanding immediate dialogue, and they are terrified of permanently alienating their crucial youth voter base. And let's be real, in Indian politics, losing the youth vote can drastically shift the entire balance of power. Section 4. Discrediting the CJP, controlling the narrative. So as this internal split kept growing, we started seeing a very concerted effort to discredit the protests. This was coming mainly from certain party factions in states like Jharkhand and Bihar, acting as a counter-strategy to protect the party's image. They started leveling some really heavy accusations against the CJP. We're talking claims that protesters were chanting anti-national slogans, attempting to incite riots, being hijacked by opposition politicians to break the government, and even facing unverified accusations of utilizing Pakistani funds. It was a very clear strategy: frame the youth movement not as frustrated students, but as a dangerous anti-national threat. Naturally, the protesters are forcefully denying all of this. CJP founder Abhijit is basically saying, hey, this aggressive pushback is nothing but a calculated distraction. According to the CJP, the government isn't fighting a foreign threat at all. They're simply paranoid about Gen Z mobilizing on the streets. The argument is that they're just trying to shift the conversation away from India's systemic exam failures and the country's high youth unemployment rate.
Section 5. The long-term fallout, electoral consequences.
All right, which brings us to the ultimate question for this explainer. Despite this huge internal divide, the very real public sympathy, and literal chaos on the streets of Delhi, is the ruling party actually worried about losing power over this? Well, the answer, at least from inside the party ranks, might actually surprise you. I'm going to leave you with this quote from Avnish Kumar, a BJP member from Bihar. He notes, the difference between this campaign and the 2010 anti-corruption movement is like the difference between night and day. Today, the opposition is divided on this issue. And that right there perfectly encapsulates the current political reality. Because despite the ongoing crisis and the very real internal panic over police brutality against students, ground workers remain incredibly confident they can weather the storm simply due to a fragmented opposition. It really leaves us to wonder, if the political establishment feels immune to the fallout, what exactly is the next move for the Cockroach Janta Party and the youth of India? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and definitely keep your eyes on how this whole thing unfolds.